Good evening. How many of you know me? How many of you know me? How many of you, wow, how many of you have never seen me do a presentation that know me? And how many don't know me from Adam? Okay. My name's Bill Tan. I'm a real estate note investor. I live in San Diego. And I came up here today just for this. I also come up here on the second Wednesday of every month to run a real estate club called LA RIA. So if you Google it, and by the way, after you're done with that, maybe I can get some help passing these out to folks. Yep. Thank you very much. That'd help her. And I've been doing real estate for almost 4 decades, and I've been doing notes for over 3 decades. How many are not familiar with notes at all? Thank you very much. Well, it's real easy. Let's hope I put this in right. A note is an IOU. Have you ever bought something and owed them money afterward? You had to sign an IOU or they would not let you do it. Let's see if this is working. It's not working. Huh? Oh, no, it did. A little slow. Does everybody have something now in front of them? There's 2 sheets. There's 2 handouts. That's the one for tonight's presentation. The other one is, if you've never been to my club, free admission, first time. And if you turn over this one, you'll have use of that later, okay? I've been doing real estate for a long, long time. And I was a real estate broker for 25 years. I let that go. I found it's cheaper now for me to rent a broker than it is to be a broker. Seriously, it's getting expensive to be a broker nowadays. And I don't like the restrictions. I guess I have to speak louder for you. I was a deputy probation officer with LA County for 10 years. And during that time, I was a part-time real estate and note investor. At the end of those 10 years, they said I had to go, and initially I worked in the Central Juvenile Hall, which is the largest juvenile detention facility in the world. And then I worked at a camp, which is a timeout for bad boys. And when I worked at camp, I worked for 2.5 days, and then I did my real estate note business the rest of the week. It worked perfectly. Then came one day, they said, we decided we want to promote you and move you to an area office. Promote me, fine. What does area office mean? Since I'm not really interested in area office, because I can't work with the kids one-on-one, they said, you get to go to an area office 5 days a week and write court reports. And at that time, I had already been real estate note investing, and I was making more money doing that than as a probation officer. I liked working with the kids, even the bad ones, or naughty ones, naughty ones. And so it was an easy decision for me. I asked my wife for permission, and I retired. And I haven't looked back since. And I retired in 1994. Yeah. And I've been doing, that's okay. By the way, since More Financial's not here, and I recommend More Financial, Connie's a hard money lender too. She didn't tell you that. Lima 1. Getting away from things. I've always said that either you figure out whether the speaker knows what they're talking about in 5 minutes or not. So I'm just going to tell you that's it. I've done real estate note investing. If you have any questions out of this class, talk to me. What time do I have too? So I have since this is 1/4 after.
Yeah, we started late. We started 15 minutes late. 10 minutes late. I would like to go till 9.
Okay. Chi, 9 o'clock. Okay. Because this is what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to do my best to impart some knowledge to you between now and 9:15. The last 10 minutes, I'm going to give you my thoughts on where I see we are in the real estate cycle, what the opportunities are and niches that you might like. That's extra credit for coming here tonight. Are we good? Yes. Okay. Let's see if this is the right way. Okay. This is not a financial calculator thing tonight. This is how to use your financial calculator for every financial decision you make today and in the future. Here's a disclaimer. Now, don't believe a word I say. Check everything yourself. It's called due diligence. This is my contact information. I will give it to you again later, if you like. I have business cards up here. So I'll give this to you if you like. All you have to do is ask me. I will give you a PDF of this, or I'll give it, and I'll also give it to her. She has the slides. You have the slides, so you can. You have the slides, so you can give it to them. This, I strongly, if you want to participate tonight, download this. This is a financial calculator app. This, you need to see the, it's a burnt orange. It's available for both iOS and Android. It's about $6. Extremely easy to use. I've been teaching using this type of financial calculator for 18 years now. I've taught a financial calculator class over 50 times in the last 18 years. And who's been a student in my class? Deborah, David. Oh wow. I cause brain strain. Encarnacion, you look different with that hat. So if you want to download that tonight, you'll be able to follow along much easier. I was helpful when they put it together, the authors of this. In iOS, it's under in-a-day development. Under Android, I believe it's K2 something, K2 cash flow. This is the calculator that I've been teaching from for many years. It looks sort of. Oh, by the way, before I go any further, how many have any real estate experience, buying, selling? Okay, how many have any note experience? Okay. How many don't know nothing about nothing? Okay, Lazarus. I was looking for that hand, Lazarus. Okay, that helps me. So I think about a quarter of the class is new. So this looks kind of intimidating with all these numbers, but in reality, for real estate and most financial decisions, you're only using the outside buttons except for the numbers and the arithmetic functions. How many of you have ever used the HP12C? This is so much easier. So much easier. So easy that this is my youngest, seriously, my youngest calculator student. Excuse me? What you're going to learn here tonight. How to take better control of your debts by understanding how they are calculated. How to determine the different parts of an amortized loan. Somebody who's not taken my class, can you tell me what an amortized loan is? Really? Aaron. Okay. Like minds, think alike. Has to be paid down to zero? Is it a fixed interest rate? It could be. It could be, and most times it is. What it is a loan with equal payments over a specified period of time, and at the end of the last payment, you owe zero. It comes from the Latin word morte, which means to kill. You're killing off the loan one payment at a time. So that's the way you think of it. And so tonight we're going to determine, number of payments, interest rate, present value, payment, and future value. Possibly we'll get to the remaining balance of the loan. If not, I'll make it up to you. Principal and interest of a payment. We definitely will be doing that one. Because every payment on an amortized loan is part principal and part interest. Now, every every specialty has its own language, right? In the mortgage business, principal is the amount that you borrow, the amount that you owe. Amortization, already explained that, right? Interest. Here's something I want you to think about. How many of you are currently renting the place that you live in? Okay, so you pay rent every month and you get to stay there, right? How many of you live in a house and you have a mortgage? Do you really? Only that? Okay, my math is kind of off here. Either renting, what else is there besides renting and owning? True. Sponging off the parents. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, okay. So those of you with the loan, are you realizing that you borrowed money that was not yours, right, in order to get the property? And that every month you have to pay the rent for borrowing that money. It's called interest. Whenever you think of a loan, when you hear the word interest, think of rent. It's the easiest way I've ever been known to understand what interest is, because you're renting the money. You have to give it back. At some point, you have to give it all back. Or they do what? They take the house, because they didn't believe that you were going to make all those payments. And they said, okay, you wanted to buy this house? Well, if you don't pay us, we're going to take the house back. And how to discount the price of a note. Basic things tonight. We'll go back to there. Why I really wanted to learn the financial calculator. One of the first investment properties I did out of state was in Phoenix, Arizona. Anybody investing in Phoenix, Arizona? Well, right now I'm told it's a hot market. Tucson is, I think, even hotter than Phoenix. And so I learned that when I'm an out-of-state owner, unless I have done a very good job putting together a team in Phoenix, Arizona, I was going to have this thing called problems every month. And the company that had helped sell me the property was also the leasing agent. And it was amazing how in 1 year I needed their help 4 times to replace the tenant. Really. And each time they took 1 month rent as their commission. Yeah. So they got fired. And after a while, it wasn't worth it to me to get up at 4:30, get on a plane at Ontario for 6 o'clock to fly to Phoenix, to hopefully solve that problem in 1 day and take the 10 o'clock flight back, which was the last one back. I know that our hostess has done a similar thing to Indianapolis, in which case that takes 1 day to fly there, 1 day to fly back, and hopefully 1 day to solve the problem. She's figured it out, so it only takes one very, very long day. Unless you're as good as she is, you can't do that. That's a different story. Anyway, so I bought this property, and it was nothing but problems. One of my problems, nothing but problems. On the west side of Phoenix, 8444 West Glen Rosa. Why do I remember that? Because it was problematic. So I decided I was going to sell it, and it was in a bad time. The only way I could sell it was to help finance the sale. What's that called? Seller financing. I sold the property, and then all of a sudden I didn't hear about tenants, toilets, or turnover anymore. The worst problem I had was getting a paper cut, opening up the envelope. And just before I had sold that property, though, about a year before I sold it, all of a sudden I was making payments to a different company. Has anybody ever done that on your mortgage? Made payments elsewhere? Well, come to find out, the owner that I'd bought the property from, which provided seller financing to me, sold the note. It was a $24,000 note. And I come to find out she sold it for guess how much? 16. Lower. 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 5. And I'm going, if she'd only but told me, I would have sold it for 5. Then I was sitting there going, they bought it for 5, and then when I sold it, they got paid how much? 24. Oh, I want to learn about this business. So I started telling people what I had done, and then they started using seller financing. They would come to meetings like this and say, you know, I'm only getting $100 a month on my note, and I really need some money. Well, I would buy these notes from other investors. Best one I did in that period was I bought a $10,000 face value note for $1,500. I only got $100 a month for 2 years. How much is that? That's $2,400. That's more than I paid for it, right? And then what happened? They paid me off. I was friggin' brilliant, wasn't I? And I said, I want to learn how to do this. So I took a class, learned how to do it. That's how I learned about the note business. I'm not going to go any further than that. I just want you to understand. My history with calculators. This will date me. When I first started going to the University of Colorado Boulevard, anybody ever attend that? Also known as Pasadena City College. I thought I was going to be a pre-dental student. And for the math part, we used a slide rule. Seriously, I had a really great slide rule. I bought my first calculator because calculators were then allowed in the test. Cost $105. $100 plus 5% tax. Still remember to this day. And all it did was add, subtract, divide, multiply, take the square root. That was all it did. Oh, memory. There was a memory function. This one we're talking about tonight, much easier. She left. Kirk, I want to go to this one. Those in my class, who've ever taken my class, I've always used a whiteboard. And last time I taught it here 4.5 years ago, I used a whiteboard. This is now my whiteboard. So I'm going to show you how to do things different ways. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, let's start off with a $400,000 property. Is that reasonable to expectations? So the amount, you can read there. The present value, the amount that we're buying for today is $400,000. And it's not. Let's hope it works, otherwise I have to use my finger. Oh. If I have to use my finger, it'll get ugly. 400,000. And would you say right now, reasonable interest rate would be about 4%? I like numbers. 30 years. How much is 30 years? That's the end. 360. It's a fully amortized loan, so after all 360 payments are made, what is the future value? 0. So now you have 4 out of 5. And how you figure it, and look at this. If you buy it for your iPhone, you can get it for the iPad. If you have any 4 of those, you can always get the 5th. So the answer for a fully amortized $400,000 30-year loan is 1909.66. Is that correct, David? Is that correct, David? No, it's not, David. It's negative 1909.66. And this is why. I want you to think of this whenever you're dealing with anything financial. If you're receiving money, it's going into your pocket, right? It's making your pocket bigger. Positive. That's a good thing. If you're paying something, you have to take it out. Pocket is smaller. Negative. Not quite as a good thing. Okay? That's how you have to think about it. So in this case, the $400,000 we borrowed, right? When we bought the house, did we touch that money? When you borrow money, no, you don't touch it. However, they lent it to you, so it's essentially going into your pocket, even though you never received it. That would mean it's positive. These positive and negative numbers are very important. Would you like to know why? I was also a note broker. A note broker means you buy low, sell high. And so there was this property in eastern Oregon that had been sold. The seller used seller financing, and I made an offer to buy their $60,000 note for $55,000. Excuse me, for $51,000, because I knew a buyer would buy it from me for $55,000. That was a company named Metropolitan Mortgage. They're no longer in business. I sold a lot of notes to Metropolitan Mortgage, and so they gave me really good pricing. Well, come to find out, I didn't get this note. Somebody else offered more, and the seller rightfully took it. What bothered me is I found out later that Metropolitan Mortgage had bought that note. And I was displeased because I was one of the preferred brokers, and I thought I got the best pricing. Well, I called the owner because I wanted to find out who this person was. If they're going to pay more, I want to find out who it is. That's how I found it was Metropolitan Mortgage. So I went storming back to Metropolitan Mortgage, spoke to my rep, and I said, "Hey, Debbie, I'm a nice guy. You said I get the best deals. There's this property in Oregon. You guys bought the note on it. They got more than I could pay. What's going on here? Give me a minute. Let me get back to you." Come back. She says, "Yes, we bought that note. And you remember where we quoted you $55,000? Yes. Well, we quoted him only $52,000. And where you took $4,000 off for your commission part, he added $8,000. Oh, no, you gave him 11. It was 11, 62. 11,000. Huh. So what happened was he should have subtracted his commission from what he had been offered from Metropolitan Mortgage, but he added a whole lot more than he thought he should get. The seller of the note threatened to take him to court, so he had to come out of pocket $11,000. That was an $11,000 education. Now, that would have been fine for him, but he quit the business afterward, which was fine too. So, $400,000. If we do it for 360 months at 4%, the monthly payment would be $1,909.66. Are we good with that? How about if we have really, really good credit and we can get a 3.5%? Do you think that's possible today? Well, I will show you this. The monthly payment for 3.5% is $1,796.18. What's the difference between 4% and 3.5% on $400,000? It's almost $400 a month, $350 a month. Well, not everybody has stellar credit. How about if they can only get a 5% loan? The monthly payment would be $2,147.29. Would you like to see how I figured that out? So I'll clear it here. And so the $400,000, can everybody see, by the way? Okay, that's present value, right? Because that's what we're paying today. No, I didn't.
This is the training program I was talking about, guys. See the 400,000 above the TV that just showed up? That way you don't have to remember. That cell's holding 400,000. Do the next one, Bill.
And then it's for 30 years, which would be 360. And that's which one are we talking about? Huh? 5%? 5%. And then after 360 payments, what's owed? 0 in the future value. And then we solve for the payment. Isn't that easy? What's really nice about this left side over here is this is the previous calculations we've done. So you don't have to input it again. That's what's one of the really good things about this. When Christina and Glenn, her husband, took the class, they had to use an actual calculator. That's part of it. Well, on a on a on an iPad, it shows up on the yeah, and on the phone version, there's the 3 lines in the upper right, and it's under recent items. That's why I like the iPad. Yes.
Once you put in all the numbers, how do you get the PMT?
I just tapped the PMT button.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It was
Yeah, there we go.
Jonathan. It was really hard. I just took the finger and I just went.
It looked difficult.
It was difficult. So this is what you can do to figure out what the payment would be on just about any loan. Those of you who have a mortgage, if you've made the payment every time, I'll show you a way on how to find out what the remaining balance is, should be, soon. I'll do it now. If I do this and then that, here's an amortization schedule, just like the one you should get from your lender. Can you all see that? So, yes, ma'am. Orange button, FV, which underneath it says amortization. Now, how many of you in this room have ever paid your mortgage faithfully all the way to completely to the end? It's very rare unless you have extremely white hair. How often do people, most often, how often do you think lenders expect a loan to be out for? 7 years. So 7 years is how many payments, Scott? 84. So we'll go down here to 84. And this app, which is pretty cool, tells us that the remaining balance after 84 payments is $351,779.71. That's why if you have your own mortgage, you should know how many payments you made. You should be able to, with this app, be able to figure out what your remaining balance is, and it should be the same as what the lenders gave you. If there's a difference, ask them why there's a difference. Okay, because sometimes, have you ever heard of GIGO? Stands for garbage in, garbage out. Not all lenders do the scanning. I can't hear you, David. Thank you. Hold that thought. Was that helpful to this point? Okay. Now, something else. Every payment you make is part what? Part principal and part interest. So when you look at this amortization schedule, you can see where this first payment of 19, what was it, 19? This is the 5% one, 2147.29. Of that 2147.29, $480 is principal, which is making the loan less. Only $480. In this one, $1667 is the rent you're paying on it. Would you like to learn of a way to pay it off faster? Okay. So if with this first payment, if you had sent this payment of 21, you could, and if you could do it, 2147.29, if you were to add $482.63 to that payment, I would suggest making a separate check for that amount and say principal only. You would have eliminated a $1,664 interest payment. So every time you add extra principal for the future payment, you eliminate that interest. It will re-amortize, yes. However, if you just work from this original one, it'll pay it off in half the time. There'll come a point, though, where it doesn't make sense for you to keep making principal payments because there'll be a point where principal equals interest or more than interest. For as long as you can, though, isn't it worth it to make an extra principal payment to eliminate $1,600 interest? That's right, Scott, sometimes. Very good. Well, let's say that, where did it go?
In that scenario, you have to pay the exact principal amount.
No, you don't. What's your name?
Shervin.
Shervin. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Shervin. Sorry about that. It does not have to be. It can be any amount. You want it to be at least about what the principal amount is for the next payment or more. It doesn't have to be. It could be less. It just causes a reamortization of the schedule, and you're eliminating a good chunk of interest every time. It may not be $1,600. If it was only $200 instead of almost $500, you might be what, 1/3. So maybe eliminating $1,000 of interest, or $500. Does that make sense? Now, what do lenders like to do? They like to say, look, we'll give you a choice between paying it off in 30 years or 15. 15 is the one that they do. So I did this already for you. The payment would be $29.5875. So are you willing to pay $1,000, $1,050? Yeah, $1,050 extra a month to pay it off in 15 years? Or would you be willing to pay off extra principal? Understand this. Will a lender, if they locked you into $29.58 payment, will they accept less than $29.58? No? Son of a gun. So, right. So I always tell people, get the lowest payment you can. It might be a slightly higher interest rate. However, you can always add principal payments to that, but you can't go below that amount. Whereas you're stuck for $1,050 more a month. Yes. I changed it back to 4%. Funny you should ask that question. Let's try one before that. How about, just like I did last time, 3.5%. Now, last time for 3.5%, the payment was $1,796. Now it's $2,859. So it's over $1,000 again. And what's your name? Nance? Nance, for you, 5%. $31.63. That's for 15 years. Just for you. And that's what I like about this app. See how fast this goes? Makes it really easy. I now teach using the app. I don't use the calculator anymore because people weren't using the calculator. The last time I used it was in her class, and they were all using the app in the class. Yes.
So if I'm reading this right, when it was 30,
So look at that. Going back up, that first payment was 480 principal and 1667. This one is 1,500 principal because it's a smaller amortization period of 180 months. 50.
30 or more years, they're actually losing $200,000.
I'm glad he's ahead of me. So if we were to go back to 4%, because I'm going to go back to where's that 4% one? 4% 30 years. This one. If we were to multiply $1,909 for the 360 payments, the total of the payments would be $687,478.03. How much rent are they getting from you for borrowing that $400,000 if you go that 4%? Huh? $287,478. Why would anybody in their right minds take out a loan like that? Because they can't buy a home any other way. Exactly. So always take that into account. And by the way, are you aware that interest rates are negotiable with lenders? Yes, they are. Even with hard money lenders. I'm an educator. Look at, hard money has its place. Did you have the money to buy the property without that hard money loan? No. You need it. Sometimes that hard money is hard. If you did it for the 4% 15 years, wherever that was, if you were to multiply 180 times 29.58, you would come up with $532,575. So you would pay $132,000 for renting the money. That is why most mature real estate investors become lenders. I'm sorry? What is good about being a lender? The return on your investment, the yield, right? What's bad about being a lender? Maybe inflation, but see, you can determine the interest rate, so you can, and when interest rates are higher than they are, returns are higher. What? You get paid off and you have to go find another one. That's the bad part about the lending business. And it is a bad part. It really is. How about another example? Anybody who pay all cash for a car? How many don't pay all cash for a car? Okay. Have any of you ever gotten a car loan? Whew. Okay. I'm going to work from a $30,000 car. Can we work with that? So 30,000. They're giving us the loan, right? How long are usually car payments? 5 years. 60, right? And I'm going to use a 6% interest rate only because that's what I heard. You can do you can do less. After the end of 60 payments, are they going to get any more? Are you going to make any more payments? So the future value is 0. So if you were to do this, what is it? $579.98. David, listen to me. The object is to let people learn. They can't learn if you're giving them the answer. Okay? Now, if you had been in my class, Aaron, I would have asked you to stake your life on that answer, and most likely you would have said yes. And then we would have been notifying the next of kin. Because the answer is negative. Negative, because it's coming out of pocket. Let's say that payment's too high. What will the car dealer then do? To how many years? It's usually 7 years as opposed to 6 years. So that is 84. Excuse me. 84, 6%, 30,000, 0. If you were to calculate it, you would come up with negative 438.26. I'll just finish it. By extending it 2 more years, we've reduced the payment $140. How do we buy things in America? Wrong, not on credit. Huh? On time, but Joanne, what? People are less concerned about the price and the interest rate as they are concerned about the monthly payment. It's always 500 down, 500 a month for 500 years. You understand what I mean? So that I want you to see how we manipulated the number of payments. We did not change the interest rate, did not change the price of the car, did not change the future value. However, we changed the payment, $140. Would that make a difference? Could you also do the same thing with a house? That's why you're here tonight. That's what I'm here to show you. You can manipulate these numbers to make it work. For example, let's say that you're selling a property, you're selling it. Okay, you want to sell it, you want to provide the financing. This is what you will finance it for 30 years for them because you want an income to pass the time when you retire, right? You want this. And at the end of 30 years, how much will they owe you? 0. How much are we selling the house for? You tell me. Huh? How about local numbers? We're in Pasadena. Could we? Would 800,000 be fair? Would 800,000 be a number you could use here? You want to use larger numbers, smaller number? You tell me. That's no okay. The people tell you that they can only afford how much a month? 2,500? I'm not selling it to you. What did I hear? 4,000? 4,500. So that they say they can afford 4,500, right? We have 4 out of 5. So if we put it in here, 800, 360, 0, they can afford 4,500. 5.42. Would you be okay with that interest rate? Is that better than what you can get in a bank right now? You can do better in a bank? Yes. You're selling. One of my students got me. So I'll recall present value, put it on my side, then I'll put it back. How's that? Very good. You get a star. By the way, it just occurred to me. Are you guys good at catching? Nance. This is to counteract the chocolate. This is from my parents' house that I'm selling in Arcadia. This will be the last tangerine. Huh? This is the last batch of tangerines. Does this make sense what we're doing? Now let's say you wanted more than 5.42. What would be a good return? Not you. Yeah. Huh? 7? So we would put 7 into the interest rate. They can only afford 4,500, right? So it would have to change the number. It would change no solution. And why is that? Because 7% of 800,000 is how much? So that'd be 56,000, right? And divide that by 12. That's less than 4,500, isn't it?
No, the payment is 5,300 with 7%.
Okay. So let's put, in this case, let's put 480, and then we'll change this to 6%. Or you can change it to 600, which is 50 years. By the way, with seller financing, you can do anything. And that's 6.5, about 6.5. That would work, wouldn't it? Why would you want to do something like that? Extend the time way out. Because your less of each payment will be principal. So if we were to do this, we would see that the first part, principal is only $177. And what do we know will happen? What do we know what will happen? Will they go out 50 years? No. I'm sorry? Absolutely it's legal. It's legal when you're selling up your property, or it's legal when a broker is involved in California. I used to be a broker, I know these things. So can you see how we manipulate each and every part? And that we will then, using this, we'd also be able to find out after how many payments what the remaining balance is. Look at that. Let's say after they made payments for 5 years. At 5 years, they'd still owe $787,000. These are numbers I like. Am I confusing you with all this? I don't know. Are you looking at left?
At an $800,000 property of the life of this loan, people will probably die and have to transfer it to the kid. You make 3 times the amount of money that the initial property.
Yes. Have I convinced you that notes are not bad? Yeah, sure.
How is it determined what the interest versus principal?
In this case, it was determined by what they can afford to pay. Because remember, everything is sold by monthly payment. I asked them, how much could you afford? You could afford $4,500.
But within each payment, how do you determine if what the split is?
I can tell you the formula for that. However, it's easier when the calculator does it for you. I'm serious. I can give you that formula. And when I first got into business, we had a book. It was called Elwood Tables, and we'd have to open it up and we'd have to find a factor and then multiply the amount of the loan. Yes, much harder.
Can you buy something like this, wrap it, and then offload it somewhere?
Yes. If we get time, I will show that to you, John.
So how does that increase the value of this home?
It does not increase the value of the home. The resale price will be the resale price, whatever the time is when we sell it. You know, you cannot count on, do not buy a property and expect it to go up in value. That's an East and West Coast thing. It really is. In the Midwest, well, in Mississippi, went 50 years without the price going up. Yeah. No, I don't. So that was a. So let's go back to the car. Let me go back to the car. Do you mind if we go back to the car? Over here. So, yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. It's the next card. So in this one, this is a $30,000 car, right? And who is the greatest financier of car loans? Which one? I think it's GM. I think it's GM. And they finance the purchase of these, right? When you go, if you go to a car dealer today, will they try and sell you a car or will they try and do something else? Why do you think they might do that? They make more money. So if they were to get 6% yield on this, and then some cases in order to sell them, they have to what? Discount the interest rate, make it less, correct? If they lease, you want to know what their yield is, the return on their investment? And I just figured this just once, I haven't figured it recently. And it was part of her class. I don't know if it was part of your class too. Yes, that's right. One of my students took the class. The very next day, he negotiated a lease for his girlfriend, who's now his wife. Take a guess what their yield, return on their investment would be, as opposed to 6. No, it's not ridiculous. It's a good return. 14. Is that better than 6? Why do you think they're pushing it? Leasing. And most people do not understand leasing as financing. They don't understand that leasing can be negotiated. I'm telling you now, it can be. Please do so. Don't go in there. How about one more example? Credit cards. Anybody have those? Oh, okay. Okay. By the way, financing also covers what else besides, I'm going to do credit card. What else does it cover? Student loans. Usually that's the last one people. What else besides student loans? Exactly. Telephone contracts now. What else? Medical bill. Just about anything is financed now. Why do they finance things now? They can make more money at your expense. You must add that part. Don't let them do it after today. So I read where the average credit card balance is $20,000. Have you read the fine print? Well, my example was 24. So can we go 24? 24% is interest. Okay, how long do they say it'll take you to pay off that? 22 years. He's right on. That's 264 payments. Now, at the end of 22 years, what's the future value? Oh, come on. Who's not going to keep charging on their card? Be real. Yes, if you didn't charge, if you cut that card off and just kept making payments, real. So the monthly payment would be $402. That's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about $402 times 264 months. How much is that $20,000 credit card bill going to cost you over the life? $106,169. So what am I telling you to do about financing? Be smart. If you have a balance, pay the lowest one off first, apply the payments you made to that to the next smallest one till you pay that off, and just keep going. Attempt to get yourself out of debt. Excuse me? And then become a lender. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to show you a note deal. This was brought to me by a guy named Clint. He was offered $20,000 in payments. So it's $20,000. Excuse me. This will be easier. $20,000. And it was payable $200 a month for 100 months. Now, since he was going to buy this note, this $200, is it positive or negative? It's going into his pocket, so it's positive. He wanted a 4% return, bless him. If he had bought it at a 4% yield, this is called discounting a note, how much would he have paid? $16,984.28, which is a little less than face value, right? Okay, so you, Vincent, so you don't have to do that again. What was my answers? It was 16,000. Negative. And this was 100 payments. He wanted a 4% yield, after which he'd get nothing, and the payments were 200 plus 200. As a note broker, note brokers do what? They buy low, sell high. My yield, minimum yield, has always been green for money. And I would buy these 100 payments of $200. I wouldn't get anything after that. And I would pay, where did I put? Oh, $13,533.56. You see that? Note brokering is I would buy this note and I would sell it to Clint for 16 and keep the difference as my profit or commission. In the state of California, if you're going to broker notes, you must be licensed. You must be licensed or working underneath a broker. Jonathan. I bought it for this, I sold it for that. Now, real estate broker, mortgage company license, or an attorney, not MLS. You have to be something mortgage. Let me step off topic. One to address yours. I just did a deal, and it just completed. Where I bought the property was for sale for $700,000. Okay, $700,000, and they didn't sell it because they would have had a tax issue of $300,000. So it was brought to me. I'm a transactioneer, as she talked about, and I found a way to do that where didn't pay any in taxes, capital gains taxes. So what happened was I put my house here, 700. They sold it to me for $700,000 as an IOU. Okay, 100% financing. I sold it to a buyer, $700,000 cash. What is my tax liability? Bought, sold, same price. I took that cash. I went to someone like Lima One. I made hard money loans with that $700,000 cash, and I made the payment to this person. By the way, it's at 4%, and I was getting 8% on this $700,000. Jonathan, that's called arbitrage. Different subject. You can talk to me something else. I'm just showing you that this is how, if you learn how to do numbers, this is something you can do. Now, how much of my own money did I use? 0. What's my return on my investment? Pretty darn good. And a terrible thing happened last week. They paid me off. What is 4% of $700,000? It's $28,000 a year. Huh? My income from that stock. Hey, I will do those all day long. Right? You have prepayment penalties? Now, but if there is, after 5 years, you can't have a prepayment penalty. Okay. Now, I promised that I would share something else with you. So, Kirk, I need to go back to the other one. If you have more questions of this, by the way, I'm going to teach a class April 11th up in this area somewhere. I just decided yesterday. Haven't found a place yet. I'm going to teach a financial calculator class. April 11th, Saturday, April 11th. So the financial calculator class. Okay, very good deals are created. Jonathan, that was a very good deal. I told him. Would you agree? Okay, just wondered. Factors to consider, I'll just go through this. Information, education. By the way, speaking of information, if you will email me, I will add you to an email list that on Saturdays I send out an LA RIA Saturday summary, which I keep people up on current events. You get it? You get it? Is it worthwhile? Yeah. Okay. So where are we in the real estate cycle? Quick. Where do you think we're in the real estate? Raise your hand. We're at the high point, okay? Oh, so we're not at the high point. Okay. I will agree with David. I think we are just past the high point. However, because of where we are with the very, very low interest rates and very, very low inventory, I believe that houses that go for sale this spring will have an uptick in price. Yeah. And that's it. There ain't no more after that. Yeah. It's more of a flat. True. Over 2.5 million is Death Valley. Anything less than 800, anything less than the FHA minimum limit is hot as could be, which there's almost nothing available. Here's opportunities I see right now, this year. I believe there's still fix and flips. However, the iBuyers are making inroads. Who are the iBuyers? Open Door, Zillow, OfferPad. Okay, they are out to kill, and they're going to do a very good job of it, of the small-time fix and flippers. They do it fast, they do it quick, they don't. I've had several people sell to them. Very good experience for those people. So if you're a fix and flipper, you're in trouble. That's all there is to it. Hold and or control. Absolutely. Hold or control. If you can get the financing in place, hold it, because rents are still rising. If you're in the state of California, by the way, there's something that Bruce brought up at the summit. By the way, two things. This has nothing to do with it. How many write checks? How many write like 12/31/19? 12/31/19. Don't ever do that again. You have to do 1/20/2020, because if you send it to the wrong person, they have ways of just adding 2018 and post-date the check. Okay, so don't do it. That's what I said, 2018. Okay, backdate. You understood it, right? Don't do it. And where was I going just before that? I lost my train of thought. Oh, Bruce Norris. There has been a law just passed in the state of California, which is beyond stupidity, which is our legislators sometimes. They passed a law in 3 years. In 3 years, every household will be limited to 55 gallons a day of water. It depends. Do we have households where people aren't legally living in them? So if you are a landlord, and your tenants don't follow the regulations, who is liable for the $1,000 a month fine? Daily. I did say daily at the end there. Yeah. So I think this is stupid. I believe they will, before it can be enacted, I'm sure somebody's got to. Yes. Hey, Jeff. Well, like I'm saying, there's a lot to be sorted out. If you want to be a landlord, though, you could become on the wrong end of this thing. I'll be happy to talk this after. Let me finish this. I have the time limit. I just hit it. I'll go a couple more minutes. I also see that these are hard to find, but 5 units on one lot. They're unfinanceable. Seller financing. Oh, and speaking of which, seller financing. If you can get seller financing, because when the people are selling now, they have equity, they'll use seller financing. Yes, ma'am. Why 5? Because it's 1 to 4. 1 to 4 is considered single-family financing. 5 and above is commercial. Commercial financing is much more difficult to get. That's why. So, and the reason I target this is because who owns these properties? Investors. Do investors understand that you have to make a profit? Do they know the economics of the properties? Do they want you to fail, or do they want to keep receiving a check every month? They know the numbers. Buy them with getting seller financing. Also, get seller financing on anything you can get. What's really interesting, I think interest rates might go down, and you can always negotiate with human beings to lower the interest rate later on or refinance them out. Do seller financing want to be refinanced out? No. And then another opportunity, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, granny flats. In the state of California, they have to allow you to do that with some exceptions. But almost every property is available to do that. Yes, David.
I don't know if everybody's paying attention to losses, but on the new ballot, there is an initiative for the school funding. Read the fine print, it's going after Prop 13.
It's going after Prop 13. Well, the Prop 13 provided school financing. Right. Well, commercial right now, and that's the multifamily. So, and here are some niches that I think you could look into. Tired landlords. Tired landlords. Anybody know any tired landlords? Okay. Seriously. And there are other people who want to move their equity out of state. Vacant houses. There's always one. By the way, I'm selling my parents' house. I'm selling it 2 ways, just so you all understand this. I'm selling it the traditional way, which I'm in the process now tomorrow of determining how much fix up, what to fix up, and how much it's going to cost. And I'm looking at competing properties. The other way I'm selling it is I want to keep the land, and I'm going to sell the structure. I'm going to sell the structure for $400,000, subject to a $1 million land lease. That's going to be my mother's income for the rest of her life. However, the other day she told me she thought it was stressing me too much and to sell it. Hey, emotion plays into things. What she doesn't know is I'm still going to do it my way. Notes. Oops. I heard that. Notes and IOU, which are IOUs. What do you do? Chi, what do you do? And what kind of notes do you invest in? Second position number for me. Okay, in order to invest in notes, you must have more education than buying real estate. Why? And not the people who have already heard this. Who's the ultimate payer on a note? Who's the ultimate payer on a note? The borrower. Anything else? Trick question. The ultimate payer on the note is always the property. You must be willing to own that property for whatever you buy a note for, plus figure in at least 1 year to foreclose. At least 1 year, and the costs associated with that. Don't go to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, or Massachusetts. Why second position? Why does she choose second position? Because she pays less for them. And once she buys, they're making payments on the first. They're not making payments on the second. She gets them to pay or pay her off.
Also, because you can actually help the borrower a lot too by forgiving a lot of arrearages. So because you buy at such a discount, you can still make a lot of money, but pass on some of that discount to the borrower.
Now, or could you help refinance their property by making a lower payment for many, many more years? This means yes. So, and lastly, opportunity. Metro line. Are you aware that the state of California has increased the density for properties along the metro line? So if you have a single family, you can put 6 to sometimes up to 21 units without having to supply the parking. That is a really big opportunity. Yes. That's part of the metro line density one. I haven't heard that one. Did you learn something tonight? Yes. Do you feel more confident going forward, being able to figure things out? I'm available if you want to ask me for help. Okay. My name is Bill Tan. I'm a really nice guy. And I run a real estate club that meets on the second Wednesday of every month. Thank you very much for coming.